Moving on to the first keynote address of the afternoon session, we are privileged to call upon stage Mr. Micheal, President, AtiS. Sir is the President of the Association of the Telecommunications Industry of Singapore and also the Managing Director of Stream Networks, a consulting, network, security and data management integrating service company providing consulting services and solutions to ISPs, mobile phone operators, and enterprise customers. Sir has 33 years of experience. Sir has 33 years of experience in the IT, semiconductor, and telecom markets, with his last 20 years in the Asia-Pacific region as VP Asia-Pacific for a number of firms. He has spoken in conferences like Asia Telecom in Pune, Asia Telecom Industry Exchange in Taiwan, Customer Churn in Kuala Lumpur, Next Generation Broadband Networks, Apps World in Singapore, and Asia Telecommunications Information Exchange in New Delhi. Today, Sir would be sharing with us his views on telco in the cloud, challenges and opportunities. Sir, SITM welcomes you to Communiqué13.
I'll try to be crisp because after this there's a panel of panel of discussion. So what I'm going to do is to delve into some examples and talk to you about some key developments in the telecom industry as well as the cloud. Right? Telecommunications is all about fiber, really. It is all about fiber, undersea cable. Because if you have it cut, there's no internet. Well, maybe within India, you could still communicate, but not with the outside world. Right? So we talk about the cloud. But what is the use of a cloud if there is no wireless connectivity? And really, this is the reality. These are base stations. Right? So I'm going to talk about three areas: software-defined networks, over-the-top services, and security. The last point is important because we talk about voice as a commodity. And how about changing voice into something precious? How many of you have heard this catchphrase, the network is the computer? Anyone? Hey, yeah, same generation. A now defunct company called Sun, right? Sun was acquired by Oracle. Sun had this catchphrase, the network is a computer. And Sun had been around since in the age of what was known as the workstations, in the 80s, I think, right? So then the network was the computer. The network still is the computer. Why is that? Because in the effort to offer cloud services, telcos have to optimize their operations. So the move from connectivity to interconnectivity to how do we make configuration as a data center programmable? How do we make changes to applications, apply immediately to the network infrastructure and the data center? Why is this important? Because telcos, or cloud service providers, have to lower their cost. Only when they lower the cost can they offer more cost-effective services. And that really is the key. So there's a fundamental shift within the data center. And this is where we are going to talk about telcos eating their own dog food, if you understand the term, right? from closed proprietary to open programmable networks. Networks where instead of physically changing cables, you do it through software, right? Where, because of the nature of cloud service, where elasticity is important, right? Dynamic resource management and the way you provision services, user policies, can now be all made through software, right? So, end result is, where today I need 2 to 4 weeks to configure and release a new configuration, I want to do it, say, within a day or even a few days. Can I do that? Because if I can't do that, then I become more responsive. I can increase the workload on the data center that I offer services from. So, is SDN a panacea? Not really, because it's new. And there are issues. Openness is an attraction, just like open source software is an attraction. But the other side of open source or openness is that you need to have technical expertise, right? It is a fact that if you compare Microsoft and open source, you need more technical expertise, right, to manage an open source operational environment. There's also a fact that between Android and iOS, the more tech-savvy people tend to be biased towards Android. One of the key problems with SDN is that because it's all virtualized, the network is virtualized, troubleshooting tools are needed to track and monitor traffic between virtual machines. Now, I quote this last point about Cisco's application-centric infrastructure, which is their version of SDN, and VMware's recent announcement of their network virtualization platform. Why is this important? Because today most data centers, most telcos, have either VMware as virtualization or Cisco in the network, right? VMware obviously came from the server virtualization space. Cisco has gone in and wanted to make it a more network-centric space because they own the network, right? So what SDN Central, and you can go and Google it, wiki it, said is that Cisco through VCE, which is the combined product that they have done with EMC and VMware, will be frenemies with VMware's NSX. On the one hand, they compete. On the other hand, they cooperate. Couple of points to consider. Virtualized elastic workloads, fast-changing application demands, rapid provisioning. And this is what we call cloud service, right? When you want to download streams of music, download streams of video, either free or paid, how do you measure the load? You can't, right? As it happens, you accommodate to that capacity. So this demand, operational demand, to be able to move quickly towards capacity, offering capacity to new services is going to be very important, right? Manual processes today are just not efficient, as it is in many cases, all right? So we need a more software programmable way to do it. So there are 3 areas that we're going to look at. We have already looked at the workload mobility, self-service, cloud computing, where you, if you are doing an app, for all of those young students like you want to start up, doing a startup, you do an app, right? You need some very quick CPU or storage utilization. You can just buy it online, right? Improve security, that's important. And we'll talk a bit more about an aspect of security later on. Now I'm going to cover the second point, over-the-top services. I'm going to give you 2 examples, right? And this is an example beyond the shores of India, right? One is the ability to upgrade to not just using voice, but what we call rich communication suites. Many telcos today are looking at offering not just voice and instant messaging, but the ability to offer video and so on. I mean, you look at WhatsApp. I know almost all of you use WhatsApp. You can now incorporate, you can attach files, you can attach videos, photographs, and so on, right? So that's an example, an RCS, except that's offered through an OTT service provider like WhatsApp, right? a better user experience to the cloud, and really, the one company that started it was really Apple. To be able to serve the net on the palm of your hand in a very responsive manner, right? When you flip through the screens and you touch, it's very responsive. The response time was really good. And it delivers the customer experience that we all talk about. Okay. Monetization of data, right? Telcos have a rich array of assets that they today are trying the best way to use. So we'll talk about one of them, voice, later on, right? The way to do it for telcos is really to partner with some of these third-party OTT vendors or providers. Right? And I think a lot of partners, a lot of telcos in regions outside India are already trying to do this. Video today leaves the office, right? In the old days, we watched videos on the laptop, but no more, right? In places like Singapore or other Asian countries where subway traffic is prevalent, you see almost everyone either staring at a tablet or a smartphone watching some kind of video, right? The user experience is changing thanks to Apple, right? And this is a challenge that cheap devices, cheap tablets have to meet. What is the point of buying a cheap tablet which takes ages for you just to move to the next page? And that's something that a lot of cheap tablet makers have to consider. Mobility. While we talk about Wi-Fi and LTE, this is really good if you offer rich communication services. This is really good if you want to move towards rich, enriching experience like video, right? But however, I think in a country like India, there's a lot more you can do even with normal voice, 2G voice. The user experience is a service offering. Now I'm going to give you an example of what we mean by any device, anywhere. Let's take a look at a traditional in-flight entertainment. This is a plane. And this has been implemented in some airlines outside India, in the US, and this is a budget airline actually. And I'll ask permission to quote the airline, but the airline say, don't use our name, just use the example, right? In Asia. Now typically airlines, if you look at the flight entertainment screen on the seat, it's very expensive to deploy. It takes 1 to 2 years just to certify that whole screen plus the cabling plus the server that sits in there to offer the video in demand. So by the time it's certified, right, you're still toggling with, have you been on a plane, you know, buttons, right? But today you're already playing games on a touch screen, right? So the user experience is way off from what we are used today, right? So airlines understand that. They also want to cut the cost. Each plane takes about $50 million, right, to implement an in-flight entertainment system, right? So what do? Some of them have gone to the extent of looking at tablets. Not only tablets, but what if I can get rid of all the cabling? I use Wi-Fi inside the plane. Not yet Wi-Fi to the outside world, but within the plane you have a server. You stream your video or even your music wirelessly across the cabin. So you save millions of dollars, right? Less fuel burn because cables, servers are weighty, right? So this means that the airline saves a lot of money and they can put in a lot more hours of programming content in the plane, right? So wireless streaming is an OTT technology. Carriers are not involved in this. Carriers are out of this equation, right? There are security concerns, DRM and all that, but that's been handled, okay? So what's the future in-flight entertainment? Stream directly to passenger devices. Some airlines are even willing to say, okay, you bring your own phone, bring your own tablet, but you get content from me, all right? So, and there are airlines who say, okay, I'll offer a satellite link where you can have some form of email or even simple surfing connectivity to the outside world, right? So the ability to link, right, wireless, very simple Wi-Fi, we're not even talking about 3G, LTE, simple Wi-Fi, less costly Wi-Fi into an OTT environment, right? How is this important? You watch a movie on the plane lands, how many times have you got to the end and it hasn't finished yet, right? You could now continue in a taxi or in a transport back to your home or hotel. By the time you reach your home and hotel, you finish the movie. Nice, isn't it? And it's all done through Wi-Fi or 3G as you move across different mediums, right? So this is an example of anywhere, any device, anytime. So we look at OTT. In the US, Netflix has got almost the same number of subscribers as HBO. You guys know HBO, right? Paid cable TV. Netflix is internet TV, right? So Netflix is an OTT service provider, right? And they are taking on the cable service provider, not even a telco, right? So we're going to see a tremendous sea change coming in, right? There was a question yesterday about piracy in China and obviously India. So what's happening is that it was extremely expensive, right? It was extremely expensive, right? For media companies, for publishing companies, for movie companies to get into China because of piracy. Piracy. Nothing gets sold. With streaming, what they are finding that in China, for example, the second line or second rate movies are becoming very popular because they're streamed. And you can't really pirate a streamed movie because it's not downloaded. So hence, there is now a business opportunity in China. Piracy was a problem, but streaming offers a business opportunity. Let's look at the last point. One of the surveys recently done a couple of months ago indicated that to use voice, a lot of concerns are centered around security. Migration and integration, as I mentioned before, regarding software-defined networks is an issue, but really, for the end user, it is security, right? And to start with, how do you get into the application that you're supposed to use? We're talking about a new way to authenticate. This is just one example. Face and voice biometrics has climbed strongly, and according to a research analyst, GIA, more and more voice and face biometrics is going to come up as a way to authenticate you or us. Why is this more important than, or more useful than fingerprint, palm, retina, whatever else there is? Because it's less intrusive, particularly voice. Voice is just a voice. And in India, or in countries where literacy is not high, just a simple voice print is good enough, right? A two-factor authentication. And this presents tremendous opportunities for carriers because among your customers, you can capture and keep the voice prints of your customers and offer services based on that, right? So while voice used to be a commodity, voice is now a precious identifier of each and every of your customers. No passwords are needed. I'll give you an example. This is a voice biometric gateway, right? If you have a web portal, you key in your username, a voice comes in, challenge, you answer, and you're either in or you're out. No passwords, no soft or hard tokens. It's done within 5 seconds at most, right? And this is the way in which new services can be handled. You need not even need a cloud. It could be just a voice call, identification of voice. You don't need LTE for this, right? It could be implemented in rural India, for that matter. So that's just give you a flavor of what things are happening right now that can touch lives and offer new business opportunities. And lastly, we talk about telcos in the cloud. Well, China Telecom has recently launched in Inner Mongolia, and obviously there are reasons why they put it there, right? If you look at the numbers, 100 sets of racks, 2 million servers, right? And internet giants such as Baidu have become the first customers, okay? So this is a telco trying to get into the cloud space, okay? So that ends my presentation. I tried to be very crisp because there's a lot of discussion going on after this. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Sir,
Yes.
you told that if you use fingerprint scan or eye scan, it isn't as safe as our own voice, right?
Sorry, what was the question again?
So you told that if you use security through your voice, that is safer than fingerprint scan.
Well, the voice, the problem with fingerprints is some people, fingers, the print itself is not, your print is not very heavily indented. And some people have wet fingers, due to humidity or they sweat a lot. So fingerprint has some limitations.
So, but the thing is, it's a little bit difficult to, copy someone's fingerprint scan or eye scan, but it's very easy to copy someone's voice. I mean, I can record your voice now and then use it to enter into your account of anything, right?
Not true, because there is a reason why you have to answer a question. And the example I gave you is what we call three-factor in one. It's your login, username, it's your voice print, and then you answer the question. So you can't basically replay the answer to your question, because that question would have been like, you key in, right, under your profile, mother's maiden name, your birthday, and all that. So unless someone knows how to answer that question, which is called in to you randomly, it's going to be very difficult. So there's some intelligence in that, in this case.
Yes. Thank you.
Any more questions? No more? Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for sharing with us your experiences and insights. I now invite my colleague to felicitate sir with a memento as a token of our gratitude. Thank you, sir.